myself up with a massive challenge, actually, with a quote that is apparently extremely wordy, but very apt, given what I've been through with IVF. So I will let you, if you can read it from that direction, see if I actually get it right. So, let's see. I learned that success is to be measured not so much by, oh, so we've lost it already. Not so much by the position reached, as by the obstacles which are overcome to succeed. Close enough?
Yes.
Okay. I practiced that for like ever, and it's been sitting on my desk for about 10 years, that quote, and I still had trouble with it. So, but in a nutshell, in fact, I will leave it over here for you to have a look at later. In a nutshell, it describes my journey very, very well. Most couples, when they start out with IVF, know absolutely nothing going into it. They know that they've been having troubles conceiving. They often don't even know why. In my case, I specifically knew why I was having trouble conceiving, which made it slightly easier. But I had no idea where to even begin. Originally, I was actually going through the NHS. Unfortunately, in this country, there is a postcode lottery. I'm not supposed to use air quotes, sorry. Hands behind me. And which means, of course, depending on where you live, there's more funding available for people who are doing IVF. In my case, unfortunately, I did not meet that criteria. And also, if you've had children, even if it's from a previous marriage and you have no contact with them, which is, again, unfortunately, my circumstances, I, again, did not qualify for funding. So, those that are unfortunate enough to not be able to get funding through the NHS have to pay privately. And of course, in America, I don't think many private insurance companies pay for it either. It is quite expensive. Depending on the circumstances as to why you need IVF, it can be incredibly expensive. In my case, I just needed to have stimulation of my ovaries to produce a multitude of eggs, basically, surgery to have them removed, and then to have them fertilized with cotton sperm. My husband, sorry for those who don't know. I've undergone 2 rounds of IVF, and I've been to 3 clinics. The first clinic is a very good example of not just going by propaganda. By propaganda, I mean anything from the doctor's reputation, where they're located, and even figures. Facts and figures can be skewed, which is kind of one of my points, which I will get to shortly. Hopefully if I don't babble too much. My first experience was with a London clinic on Harley Street, which is apparently the place to go if you want to go to a doctor. I actually found them particularly uncaring, very expensive, and they'd made me uncomfortable, generally speaking, to be fair. After having gone to see them, I then did quite a bit of internet research, and I found that on the HFEA site, you can actually get reports on the various different clinics. And as it turned out, this particular clinic didn't have very good reports either. And coming from a lab background myself, particularly working in clean room environments, where a sterile environment, a lot of the comments that were made had to do with sterility, So, of course, naturally, you then have concerns of even having your eggs fertilized by the wrong sperm. I mean, it could cover a multitude. Yeah, you don't want that to happen, amongst other things. We jokingly said things of course, you know, if the child came out the wrong color, we would know for sure, certain that there would be, yeah, because Kenan and I are extremely pale. So our son has red hair and is extremely pale. So everything went well, apparently. He definitely looks like both of us. But that was my first experience. I did not go through with in vitro fertilization with that particular clinic because I was very uncomfortable with it. And I tend to go with my gut, and I also tend to over-research everything as it is. Also, given my background in science, and particularly working in laboratory environments, I've worked with pharmaceuticals especially. Again, going with my gut seemed the right thing to do, particularly after having read the report. The second clinic that I went to was in Nottingham, which is a bit of a hike for us. So there's a bit of stress with that. And they weren't a terrible clinic as such, but they weren't particularly helpful. I did egg sharing during that, which means that when you have your eggs harvested, half of them go to a recipient. You donate them to a recipient who cannot use their own eggs for whatever reason. And at the time, I was told that you could find out whether or not there was a successful pregnancy from that. To give you an example of what this clinic was like, when I called them back after the fact, they told me you could not. I then called the HFEA directly, myself, to find that, yes, you can, actually. And as it turned out, and I'm very pleased with this result, the woman who got pregnant using my eggs actually had a full-term baby boy. So it does mean that in, well, less than 18 years now, about 12 years now, I suppose, there could be a child knocking at my door who is half genetically me, but really only a third of it had to do with me. Because obviously without their mother they would not have life. And she was nurtured and raised them. And I made a point to write a letter to her and the child, should they choose to share the child, that point. Anyway, during that experience, and this is kind of going on to the point where I wanted to mention that the IVF process is only part of the journey. Once you are pregnant, it is also very important to have a great obstetric team as well. I was incredibly lucky with both IVF treatments to have an incredible team of obstetrics and gynecology at the LRI. In fact, the main doctor is so amazing that I have not been able to thank her enough times, really. Unfortunately, with my first pregnancy, I suffered a stroke when I was 10 weeks pregnant, and I also developed preeclampsia, early onset, when I was about 20 weeks, approximately 19, 20 weeks pregnant. I was pregnant with twins, a boy and a girl. We put 2 embryos back, and this harks back to sort of one of the other points that I wanted to cover. I have since done quite a bit of research about it, and even again, HFEA is now recommending not to put as many embryos back. I think that is on an individual basis. However, in my case, they didn't give me any valid advice, the clinic that I was going to, and apparently I was at risk. So, for the stroke, for example, and the preeclampsia, based on my age in particular, I was around 35 at the time. I'm now 40. And I had 3 factors actually.